Welcome to Revenue Rehab, your one-stop destination for collective solutions to the biggest challenges faced by marketing leaders today. Now head on over to the couch, make yourself comfortable, and get ready to change the way you approach revenue. Leading your recovery is modern marketer, author, speaker, and chief operating officer at Tegrita, Brandi Starr.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Revenue Rehab. I am your host, Brandi Starr, and we have another amazing episode for you today. AI is changing the game in marketing, automating content creation, optimizing campaigns, and even making strategic decisions. As these capabilities advance, marketing leaders face a tough question. Do you still need the same mix of specialists, or is it time to rethink your team structure? Some say specialists will always be critical. Others argue the future belongs to generalists, strategic leaders who connect the dots while AI handles execution. So is AI making marketing specialists obsolete, or is this just the next evolution of the industry? Let's get into it. So today, I am thrilled to be joined by Jorge Alvarez. Jorge is a seasoned B2B SaaS marketing leader, four-time CMO, and co-founder of Advisor, which achieved a successful exit. Over 2 decades of driving growth at cutting-edge fintech and data-driven organizations, including CSAM, Two Sigma, Betterment, and Advisor. He specializes in data-driven marketing strategies, ABM, and funnel optimization. Before his startup success, Jorge managed a $500 million investment portfolio at American Express. Today, he integrates the latest generative AI tactics to streamline teams, boost efficiency, and deliver high-impact results at his startup, Evolve IQ. Jorge, welcome to Revenue Rehab. Your session begins now.
Hi, Brandi. So happy to see you. Thanks so much for having me here.
Thank you. I am excited for our topic today. AI is such a hot conversation. But before we dive in, our industry loves its fancy jargon. But let's be real. Some of these buzzwords are just fluff, and they can hold us back more than they can help. So I'd love to hear, what is your overused buzzword that you'd like to erase from existence?
Look, it's I guess not so much of a word that would get out of existence, but I think that ABM, the methodology, is so overused. I think that people throw ABM for like many things that are not ABM, and it kind of cheapens a little bit the impact of such an amazing methodology. So I wish people were using it for more thoughtfully for the actual thing it is.
Yeah, and that is one I think that's been banished a few times, and consistently the challenge with it is not only that it's overused, but it's often used so incorrectly. So I am with you, because way back when my career started, we just called it target accounts. And there was a strategy around those targeted accounts. And then it became ABM, and then ABX, and there's so many different things there.
Now we have PBM.
Oh, I hadn't heard. What's PBM?
Well, actually, we're going to talk about that a little more, but PBM is persona-based marketing. So you're able to do ABM for every single one of your contacts, not just your key accounts.
Okay. I will have to come back to that. So now that we've gotten that off our chest, let's transition into today's topic, because this issue is impacting so many companies. Like right now, it is impossible to avoid AI. And thinking about AI, there's so many implications. And I think most companies are really thinking about, how do they use it? What tools do they need? But thinking about team structure and career pathing. And, some people say, oh, AI is going to replace certain roles. Some say it's going to evolve certain roles. And so, I know, just going back to how this conversation initiated, I read something that you wrote on LinkedIn where you were responding to a hot take, and your perspective was that marketing specialists have value, but that the future belongs to the generalists as a result of AI. And so I'd love to hear you expand on your perspective around how our marketing team structure is going to change with the use of AI.
Yeah, no, sure. Happy to do that. So, um, I guess that on the spectrum of marketers, I'm definitely on the more aggressive side when it comes to AI. I've seen so many changes over the years, and I've never seen a technology that can revolutionize all disciplines, to be honest, like this. Like the power of AI, it's huge. And when you start digging deeper into agentic AI and the possibilities that enables, you see that it's going to change fundamentally the way we work. Like the way we set up our teams is going to be very different. I'm sure you've heard of the now solopreneurs building companies with one person. We've heard that there was this post on LinkedIn that was making the rounds with a list of what was that, 5-7 companies that were in the AIR levels of 20 million, 100 million with 20 people team or less, right? So I see this, that this is going to happen in marketing, and it's already happening. And the way I see teams evolving is where you're not going to have all these specialists doing every single function. I can see easily having one person that understands the whole activity, and that has multiple agent systems under this person, taking care of multiple strategies. So more than generalists, I see more like strategists. But I don't see the need for like an email marketer, a copywriter, and so forth. Even many function of product marketing are going to be able to move to this. And I'm talking about this as if it was in the future, but the reality is that it can happen today for many of them. So yeah, that's where I see things going.
So some would argue that AI is streamlining execution, and that because it's streamlining execution, that increases the need for specialists who can optimize and guide those tools effectively. Because, with AI, it very much is garbage in, garbage out, same way we talk
Of
about
course.
data. And so if there isn't someone behind the machine with those more specialized expertise and understanding, how do we still get that same quality out?
Yeah, no, and that's fair, right? So my point is that we do need to have the knowledge to train those the agents, and to train the systems, right? Like there's no way you're going to be able to have a successful campaign without that knowledge. But that's where the CMO comes in, right? Like the CMO should be able to have that experience and be able to come with what's the right strategy for each a channel and for each activity that you perform. So the way I see it is that you have your CMO that should be super experienced, and that should know how these different activities work and what are the ins and outs. And then you have generalists that are actually executing on those tasks, and they work alongside maybe an engineer that is taking care of setting up the agents in the proper way. And it's also like important to note here that an agent, there maybe there are many misconceptions of what they are, but when you come and create a very sophisticated agent, it's something that you require a lot of knowledge to do. So I do think that all that knowledge should come from the CMO, and maybe it depends on the size of the company. So if we're talking about, a small startup, I don't think you need a specialist. But if you're talking about like, an American Express, of course, you have right now armies of marketers, right? So those armies will not be huge. They're going to become probably, 10% of their size today, but maybe some of those roles are specialists. So I guess it comes back to, what's the size of the company, what's the focus, what are the activities. But for some, you definitely will need certain level of specialization to make it work.
Okay, so I want to think about two. You gave me two thoughts. So first, I want to jump forward to the future. So if we say that the CMO has all of these expertise because they have come up, in most cases, the CMO has led a lot of these specialties within their career. That would mean that we're going to get to a point as, the current CMOs and those that are already, I'd say, at least at the director level, probably have the experience and knowledge to move up those ranks and be able to do that. Jumping way in the future, if the career path then eliminates the specialist, then how do we have future CMOs? How do we have those future leaders with those specialized expertise that can continue to think and drive the machine? Or do you think by the time we get there, the machines are going to be sophisticated enough to not need it?
Yeah, no, obviously, it's so hard to predict the future. Like, honestly, I would say more than 5 years, 10 years, I think that's going to be impossible for us to predict right now. But the way I can see it working, at least in a short to medium term, is that you have again you go back to CMO. The CMO has their own playbooks, right? So every CMO has their own playbooks, and they know how to implement them. And they for the most part, they should understand many of these disciplines within marketing, right? In the future, I can see those generalists learning from them, right, and becoming stronger at every single one of those areas. And there are things that the fact that there's not a single person doing email marketing, for example, doesn't mean that person, that the generalist that is managing the agents, is not learning from them, right? They're implementing the strategies and they're seeing them work in front of them. So they become specialists, but on a different level. They become more like strategists than actual specialists doing like the heavy lifting, right? So they're seeing how the campaigns work, how the content is the results of the content, and many other activities. So, or ads, right? Like you have your ad program on through agents, right? But you see how those results are evolving and you learn from that. So I think that there will be all that knowledge still happening and still being digested by the people that are managing by the generalists, and they will be able to become CMOs. Now, your second point, I think that's spot on. Like the fact that today we don't have still the tools through AI to do the whole strategy for let's say an email campaign doesn't mean that's not going to happen. Like we are getting close to AGI, like that could happen this year, right? And from that, I mean, it keeps getting better and better. So I could easily see in 5 years having tools that will be able to strategize and create those campaigns. I don't see though a point where a human won't be needed in the medium term. Let's say in the future, probably. I actually don't know. Like it's when you start seeing the way an agent can execute, and you see them working like the agent specialist with each other, and you see the product they can create. You start like understanding the level of complexity and sophistication they have, and what they're learning, and they will be able to execute. So I think there's a little bit of both things that we discussed.
Okay. And so I want to jump back more to today. And so we know that right now that there is a lot that AI can do. But we also know that right now it still hallucinates. It still, some of the agentic technologies are, they are improving, but they're not quite there yet. And so thinking about how organizations are defining their team structure today, do you feel like at the point we are with technology, and let's just say in the next 12 months, that a generalist really can rely on AI to replace that knowledge of a specialist who has had years of experience in the niche? Or do you feel like that's something that is more medium term?
I'll tell you what we're doing at Evolve IQ. What we're doing is we're helping companies, implement agents. So we do come up with a strategy. We help the company. We work together, come up with a strategy, and then implement the agents. So the agents run autonomously. I would say 90% of the time, there is a human component. So, for example, you have an ABM campaign. We're talking about ABM, right? A PBM campaign. You have them, going on, and we have quality controls at different, points of the campaign to make sure that the content is at the quality level we expect it to be, right? But it runs by itself. Even for content, like we have other agent systems that create content, and I of course, there's a lot of content purists that are going to push back on this, but the content that comes out is very high quality. You get pieces 80% ready, 85% ready. We do have always there's a copywriter in our team that looks at the copy before it goes out. We never let it go, except for SEO pieces. SEO pieces are different, and they don't require that much that conversational and more like storytelling part. But the other pieces, there's a person that is looking, a copywriter that takes a look and makes sure that everything's fine, that there were no hallucinations, or that there is no editing to do. Most of the times there's a little bit of editing, light editing. But to answer your question, you cannot do it today. Like, the level of sophistication of these tools is huge. I'm actually surprised not more people are doing it. And I think it's just a matter of adaptation curve. It's going to take a few years for people to really get on top of them and implement it. But the technology, it's very much ready.
Okay. And this is, it's one of those things that I definitely would say I do not consider myself an AI expert, but I would say that I am a moderately early adopter, and I'm all in on figuring this out. And one of the things that has come up is, AI technologies, leveraging AI, it's not free. And so as a leader, thinking about budgets of headcount versus tech resources, and how to, most companies, looking at all the state of this, that, and the other in 2025, we're seeing across the board, most people are seeing less budgets. And so we have to figure out where to spend in order to be effective. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on, if I've got, let's just say I'm at least a medium to large company. Small companies have their own challenges. And I'm trying to figure out where I should be pushing for headcount versus spend on technology, specifically AI. How do you think through and make those decisions?
That's a great question. So the first thing I would say is that the technology cost is not very high. Like, if you use any of those technologies, we use Crew AI, we use Relevance AI, we use Clay. The technologies are not prohibitively expensive. They are fairly affordable. Particularly the agentic tools are very affordable. So what I would say is it's more a matter of training and changing your paradigm. Like, making sure that you are open to it and start testing it, because the moment you start seeing and really getting, learning what you can achieve with them, it's a no-brainer. So what I would say is more about training and taking the leap. Like, getting one of those tools like Relevance, I would say, is the easiest one because it's no code. But just start testing it, start playing, and start creating simple agents. And so the shift there for me is more like start training your people and start seeing how could those tools affect your team in the short term and the medium term, and then you can start making decisions on headcount.
Okay, and that is interesting because I know as I've been looking at different tools, most of them I'd say seem relatively affordable, at least for mid to large size companies. But at least my perception has been that in order to accomplish all of the things, you end up needing a lot of tools. And what I'm hearing from you is I may be wrong in that perception, in that there are ways to get the same power of scale that you're talking about in having AI agents a part of the team without carrying a high dollar cost. Is that accurate?
100%, 100%. And particularly when you see the output you can get from those tools, the cost is actually, it could be almost negligible. Because again, instead of hiring a new copywriter, and you have one copywriter, because I'm sure like many companies wouldn't be comfortable with using agents for copywriting. So if you already have a copywriter and you're planning to get another one, I would say try the tools. You're going to save 80% of the cost of hiring a new copywriter by implementing a system like this. And probably you will need some engineer at your company to help you do the implementation. There are going to be things that may be a little harder to do, but it's not rocket science. For any engineer that is developing products, it's like super easy.
Okay. And so thinking about this, the other thing that comes to mind is risk and accountability. So when we hire a human, that human has a certain level of risk tolerance. They are aware of, it's like you got morals, you got ethics, you got, company rules, and, we all kind of know what's okay, what's not to a certain degree. And there's a level of accountability that I know if I completely go off the rails, I'm going to lose my job. You don't have those same things with AI. And so I know that is the hesitation, or that is one of the hesitations for a lot of marketing leaders, especially the more seasoned ones, because, we started with, like, I know my career started, I was doing design because we were sending marketing via fax machines. So to think about, programming AI when I started my career, like, seemed like something, only in a movie.
Oh my God.
And so you have a lot of, most of the companies that I see are a bit of laggards when it comes to implementing AI. They're only comfortable where it's like a human using a technology, but the human is still fully in control. And so how do you address the concern with risk and accountability when we are turning it over to a machine?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And first of all, what I would say is I would not recommend having the agents running by themselves. Like, that's just not advisable, because as you said, like, there's some hallucination. Depending on the models that you're using, some of them are more prone to it, some are less, but there's hallucination. That's going to happen. There are ways to set up your systems to minimize part of it. So basically, you can even tell the LLM, make sure that all information you used is coming from these sources, right? And it minimizes the risk. It still can happen. There's another thing. For example, for one of our content creation systems, we have a quality control agent. So the agent actually goes back and checks for accuracy. and checks for like making sure that everything is kind of following instructions that you followed, and it works actually pretty good. But yeah, again, as I said, at the end of the day, you need to have a human, making sure that all the content, all the emails, everything that you're doing is to your level of quality, right? And I worked for Two Sigma, which is a hedge fund. We had a lawyer in our team that was looking at every single social media post, for example. So companies like that, I'm sure that's not going to change, right? There's a lot of risk for them to do that. If you're a small startup, you're getting started, your risk tolerance is going to be much higher. So it also depends on where you are in that spectrum.
Okay. And so I want to talk a bit about just almost the dangers of this argument to the marketing function. There have been an abundance of conversations around marketing's role in the organization, how significant it is. We all know that everybody thinks they can do marketing's job. Like, I don't know a head of marketing that has not fought that battle of somebody randomly trying to give them advice on how to do the things. And so thinking about AI and the fact that, moving from that more specialized knowledge to generalist with AI, isn't the argument a little bit dangerous? Because it's if the mentality is just a generalist leveraging AI can do all of the things, what's to stop, especially in startups, but even in some of the other organizations where marketing isn't as valued and marketing is already fighting for the seat at the table? What's to stop an organization from going, yeah, let me get an engineer and a generalist that kind of knows marketing and just give them the AI tools?
I think that's a risk that always happens with marketing. And as you said, like, the number of times I've heard like, oh, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that from like anyone in the company? That's very common, right? And we always are like, well, we tried this, we already did, blah, blah. Yeah, there's always a reason. But yeah, you're right. That happens a lot. What I would say about this in particular is that the reason why we exist as marketers is because the other functions just don't understand the details, right? Like one of the ways we help companies at Evolve IQ is through improving, coming up with strategies that actually work, right? Like I've seen many times, and this is one of the big things that we help with. I've seen many times CEOs pushing to do a webinar on their product, right? What are the great things that my product does? Those never land, right? So yes, you can try it. Of course, you can try it, but that doesn't mean it's going to work, right? Like how many cold emails you get that are about a product, right? They offer no value, but trying to sell you on their value prop, right? And that just doesn't land. So I can see that happening, yes, and it's going to happen, but it already happens today without the technology, right? The reason, again, why cold emailing gets such a bad rep is exactly that people that really don't understand marketing try to do it, and it just doesn't work, right? So technology aside, it's not going to work either way. So my point is, yeah, AI will make it easier, but it doesn't mean it's going to work. So the need for a marketing team for the right strategies that know how to do it, that have done it, there will still be there for the I would say at least short, medium term, they will be there.
Okay. And where, kind of I want to go last is I do believe that your vision of what the future is going to look like, I think you're pretty spot on, just looking at all the trends and seeing how the technology is evolving. And so assuming that what's being predicted is the future, what advice do you give to those, for any of the folks that are earlier in their career that are, in those specialist roles today? What advice do you give them so that they don't find themselves, without a career path.
I think that's a very important point right now, and it's not just for marketing. I think that anyone that is starting their career, they should start looking at learning the most advanced tools on AI they can, because it's going to come too fast, and if you're not ready, if you're rejecting them, you are going to be in trouble. So I would say start learning about, all sorts of tools, start implementing them at your job if it's possible, right? I know that certain companies may not allow it, but even in your personal time, just start testing them. Like, you don't need to go as far as your agents, but even, using ChatGPT, you can use projects, you can train your projects with instructions, with some files. So you can start like testing different things, be on top of everything that's coming out. I follow many podcasts and YouTubers, and on a weekly basis, the number of advancements we get, new models, new tools, it's crazy. So I would say not only starting their career, but anyone right now that is in the workforce should be looking at this, because it's going to, if you don't, it's going to hit you in the face at some point.
And it's a really good point. I know that was one way that I got started with, I eliminated paying for a personal trainer by leveraging ChatGPT. And I have trained a custom GPT on all of my physical limitations, my goals, all the equipment that I have in my home gym, all those sorts of things. And week over week, it is giving me new workouts, and I print them. I go down in my gym. I do them. And if there's any, move I don't understand, it can give me a video on how to do that particular one. And that's been really effective for me. And it was one of those places where I was like, let me figure out something that I can build that is low risk. Starting using it at work can come with some risk. So it was like, okay, let me just try this. And it's been great for me. Now, could everyone do that? No, different people hire personal trainers for different reasons. But for me, it really was to have them program workouts for me so that I knew what to do. And now I'm able to leverage AI with that. And I'm sure that there's a ton more that I could go back and do and revisit. And so my last question before we get to the lightning round is really for the CMO. And I'm going to start with thinking about larger organizations where there are multiple roles and lots of specialists. If I am looking at my org chart for, the next 12, 18 months, what are the roles that you think are most ripe for shifting to leveraging AI as opposed to having a person in that seat?
Yeah, it's definitely content-driven roles, which is a lot in marketing, but starting with like purely, writing blog posts, writing, FAQs, all those sort of things. Case studies are super easy to do with AI. All of those types of jobs, I would say those are the first ones. Then I would say like email marketing, ads, even like if you think about it, you don't need to use AI to come up with your ads, but you can use it as a brainstorming tool, right? So even if you don't want to implement it in full and take the output, you can use it for brainstorming, right? So I would say most activities can rely on it for different in different ways, right? So the obvious one are the content ones, but even a product marketer can be doing that, right? Like you can be using AI to polish a product page, for example, or come up with the outline for a presentation for your sales team. There are many ways. So short answer, I guess now it's for anything, but I would say more on the content side.
Okay. All right. Well, we've talked about the challenge, and the challenge being really where to leverage AI versus specialist resources. And now it's time to fix it. So this is our lightning round. And so fast answers only. Want to
Okay.
make sure that our listeners leave with actions that they can take right now to start making an impact. And so finish this sentence. If your company is struggling to figure out where to leverage humans versus AI, the first thing you should do is
start implementing it with like simple workflows, simple activities. Just start doing it. Start like jump right to it.
okay. What's one red flag that signals a company may have a challenge balancing human versus AI, but doesn't realize it yet?
If you just don't allow to use it, like if there's a company that doesn't allow to use AI, they have a problem.
Okay. What's the most common mistake people are making when trying to determine human versus AI?
That they're not trying the new things that are coming every time, because the improvements are crazy. So if something didn't work 2 months ago, and I'm not saying a year ago, I'm saying 2 months ago, try it now.
Okay. And what's the fastest action someone can take today to make progress?
I would say just start, as I said, start implementing, start testing, implementing, trying different ways, and you're gonna find you're gonna be pleasantly surprised.
Awesome. Well, every good session ends with a plan for progress, because just talking about the problem won't fix it. Well,
Yep.
Jorge, I have really enjoyed our discussion. And where can our audience find you if they want to continue the conversation? And definitely give us the shameless plug for Evolve.
Of course. Thank you. That's a great show. Really enjoyed being here with you. So Evolve IQ, you can find us at evolve-iq.com. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, that is CMO Blueprint. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Jorge Alvarez, New York, I believe it's my handle.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure to link to everything that you just shared. So check the show notes wherever you are listening or watching this podcast. And again, thank you so much for joining me. This was such a good discussion. And I know it is something that every leader is constantly debating right now in figuring out where to best leverage AI in their organizations.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have enjoyed my conversation with Jorge. I can't believe we are at the end. Until next time, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Revenue Rehab with your host, Brandi Starr. Your session is now over, but the learning has just begun. Join our mailing list and catch up on all our shows at revenuerehab.live. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at Revenue Rehab. This concludes this week's session. We'll see you next week.